From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars, pop culture, and the ultimate adventure, life itself. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
I'm Ken Napzok.
And I'm Jennifer Landa.
And this is our episode, breaking news from a long time ago. Is not an official part of the title. I just forgot the title of our episode for only 1 second and had to cover it. Anyway, we have actual breaking news to talk about on our breaking news episode, so we're all very excited to talk about the Skeleton Crew reveals, the big sit-down with Star Wars star Jude Law, talking all about this new show. I was going to make some comments about what level of fan I think Jude Law is, but we can save that for the discussion. He seems delightfully like, I've seen Star Wars. I don't know what a Gamorrean is. Anyway, I'm Jude Law, which I'm excited to discuss more. Anyway, today's episode is brought to you, as always, by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. We're switching up our recommendations a little bit and suggesting The Living Force by John Jackson Miller. This one came out recently and was really tied to the 25th anniversary of The Phantom Menace. I read this one. I really enjoyed it. I think it's got some interesting connections to The Acolyte as well, because in this book, the Jedi Council are clearly on the path to making lots of bad choices, but this is something that Qui-Gon had talked them into doing, to try to reach out and connect with people and help people on the ground focus on individual battles and smaller issues rather than just being concerned with all the big picture stuff and the Senate stuff. And it's a really interesting examination of how all the Jedi and the Council really have their heart in the right place, but maybe still make mistakes. So I think it's a great one to check out as we're discussing the Jedi in the light of the Acolyte. So you can download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. One more time, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook. Ken, you're still reading The Living Force, right?
I just crossed the 200-page mark. I suddenly will be like, oh my gosh, I'm reading that book. I got to get back to it, which is not a testament to the quality of the book. The book's great. Life's so busy. I'm like, oh yeah, I am currently in the middle of a book. I've got to go finish it. So I actually read a few chapters. And yeah, speaking of the Acolyte connections, I won't go too deep into it here, but there was a moment where someone was saying something, and they were saying something bad about the Jedi. And I was just like, again, is everyone in this galaxy butthurt about this? What is going on? I'm being challenged in wonderful ways. But I got through the famous, now infamous Ki-Adi-Mundi scene. It's wonderful. It's a good book.
Are you talking about the vanilla?
The ice flavored ice.
Yes, the ice flavored ice. Yeah, even less than vanilla is great. This has not been a good year for Ki-Adi-Mundi. No. Everybody's on that poor
punching bag.
That poor old Syrian. Anyway, moving on to our ask. Ken, you want to cover our asks?
I do. I'm still giggling over ice flavored ice. Yes, we are asking you to check out our Patreon page. It's a great way to support us directly. You can go to patreon.com/ForceCenter to do that. You can get in on enjoy our monthly Will of the Force. You can get into our Discord server. Extra bonus things pop up all the time. You can get our James Bond series, which is not done. It's not done. Life is lifing. So we're going to pick that up. And we also have our Rise of Skywalker commentary track. It's all through the Patreon page at patreon.com/ForceCenter. And we're asking you to consider, so we can reach a goal of 400 paid supporters or subscribers. We love that number. It's a good round number. Just good plateau. You can help us get over that there.
Yeah, we love the number 400 here at ForceCenter. Yes, understandably, life is hard, and we've dipped a little bit, so we'd love to get back up to that 400 paid subscribers. This brings us to Star Wars and Life Adventures. Jennifer, what is going on in your life, and has Star Wars crossed over?
No, I'm in finals week, and yesterday I spent 14 hours working on a project because a lot of my professors wanted us to have projects before finals week. So that's been challenging, but I did it on the importance of dialects, how they enrich our society, specifically AAE, African American English. I put all my heart and soul into the project. Then I worked on my second project, which was just an extra credit assignment. And at, literally minutes before it was due, I tried to export it. And it disappeared. Literally disappeared. And I'm like, okay, this is a time where I thought if the force is real, Please, Force, work your magic. Well, folks, I hate to tell you, but the Force is not real.
Not really.
Microsoft Word is terrible. So,
Oh yeah, the Microsoft Word is the dark side. I think absolutely.
I only started recently using it. I don't want to ever use it again. It was a lesson learned in autosave. So I am tired. And last night, I think at 1:00 after I'd been crying, I was like, I really miss talking about Star Wars, focusing about Star Wars. Really miss that.
Here you go.
But here we are, and here I am, and I'm happy to be talking about Star Wars. So
Yeah,
that's been my life adventures, but there we go.
yeah. I really understand. I am a devout Microsoft Word user, but it is frustrating. It's totally out of habit. I'm just entirely used to it. I know, to save constantly. Sometimes in the middle of a conversation, I'll just do like the control save because my instinct is to just constantly be saving anything at all times because of Microsoft Word. So I feel for you.
Google Drive it is. Going back to my old ways, Google Drive is the best.
Google Drive has palpatined me a couple times. Where
really?
It's like, yeah, no, it doesn't exist. Or like, it's due now, but it just can't load. Or it doesn't remember where it is. Or is that your document? Or is that your friend's document? Like, I've had some dark side Google Drive moments. Sorry.
So, just autosave. Just keep hitting that save button no matter what.
Well, welcome to our next Subjective Wars episode, Microsoft Word versus Google Docs or Drive. Ken, how are you doing this week? What are your adventures?
I am an adherent to the Google Drive to the end of days. Not that it has been perfect, but the one thing we can all agree on is Apple Pages is the worst thing ever. That is when people are like, I'll send you the Pages link. This relationship is over. This business relationship has ended. And I'm a Mac user. I'm one of the. It's something. But anyways, we'll come to that. That's a great Subjective Wars. We'll break it off. Look, I finished Solo, and I just want a Solo Star Wars story, the movie. Have you seen it? I've been watching it while I work out, breaking it into little cardio warm-up bits, and finished the movie, and I just was so full. I just want to talk about how much I loved that movie then, and how much I think I even love it more. I really, I'll choose my words carefully. I kind of miss that era. It's a whiz bang kind of era, Star Wars, Solo into Rise of Skywalker, and I just appreciate the performances, appreciate the moments, and I needed a little pick me up of my Star Wars soul, which again you could read into and say it's my thoughts on other shows. No, I've been enjoying the last 5-6 years of Star Wars TV and everything, but that's the thing. It's like 5-6 years ago. It's crazy. It's like another lifetime ago. And I just really sat with Solo a lot this week, talked about it with a friend who actually reached out to me. He was like, man, I was just rewatching Empire Strikes Back, and the moment where Han and Luke say goodbye on Hoth, it's just such a wonderful, small, intimate moment, but just speaks to their connections. We're just celebrating those little moments. And I think Solo's got a lot of those little acting performance moments all through it that make it one of my favorites. So it was a good little Star Wars pick-me-up for me this weekend.
That's great. That is great. Yeah, that moment in Empire Strikes Back is one of my favorites, and a thing I've continued to appreciate as an adult. The number of times that Irvin Kershner is just like, let the camera hang on them as the doubt and the fear and the love fill their eyes. That's one of the things that makes Empire so strong, is how many times that happens in the film.
Yeah, indeed.
I listened to the Solo. I didn't have time to rewatch Solo, but you've been talking about your exercise journey watching it. It's like, I wish I had time to watch Solo. So I listened to the soundtrack while the extended soundtrack with the deep voiced that weirdo Lulilo Primac. Great stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Very inspiring. It's got great sort of dark, moody themes, but then when it takes off in its adventure, it's so much fun. So much fun. Jennifer, I think you once described the Solo soundtrack as good driving music.
Oh yeah. Driving on the freeway when there's no traffic, fantastic.
That flying clip over and over.
Yeah.
Imagining monsters behind you, great stuff. For me this week, I've just mostly been head down working on that birthday show and continuing to raise funds for this feature film I'm working on. So a very, very busy week. Star Wars found me in little ways. Had a couple of nice conversations with friends about Star Wars who are, more casual fans. That's always nice to get. They're like, yeah, no, I don't know. What's a Ki-Adi Mundi? I don't know. I could care less about his age and could not pick him from a lineup. I enjoyed this show, blah, 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 blah. All that kind of stuff. My wife bought 2 packets of the Star Wars Oreos. So I've been eating way too many Oreos to find the different faces. My favorite so far is Count Dooku, because Count Dooku, great Star Wars character, one of my favorite characters. Just his face on an Oreo just makes you feel like you're eating like some random vice principal, just like a guy with a beard.
Of all the things Sir Christopher Lee has done in his life, the fact that his face is now on an Oreo, I bet he couldn't have seen that coming back then.
No, I would love the interview about that. I wish he was still with us. Strangely, I think like what felt to me like my biggest Star Wars adventure is after we were done recording on Monday last week, I went to see Deadpool and Wolverine because I wanted to try to catch it before all of the spoilers washed over the internet, and they're everywhere now.
I failed in that regard, yes.
Yeah. We talked about it a little bit off air. I just thought it was worth mentioning because it comes up so much in our discussion of Star Wars storytelling that we really strive to engage with the story we're presented with and really engage with the text, the story. But the world, in terms of marketing and social media, is so awash in interviews with the creators or other people's opinions about the creators, or people analyzing films entirely from the perspective of not really talking about what the character choice was, but how much screen time did that actor get based on how valuable they are. And is this scene cut this way because this actor broke up with that actor? And like, we're so awash in the real world text that sometimes it's really hard for us to sit back and just engage with only the story and kind of shut our brains off from all of the real world stuff. And I really enjoyed Deadpool and Wolverine. I think it has a lot to going for it. But it was kind of an epiphany for me of like, I wonder if some of the deep love of Deadpool is it doesn't ask you to turn off everything you know about the real world. It's totally, it's not, it's equally invested in both texts to the character of Deadpool, both just the story. The actual character of Logan the Wolverine is important to him, but then also he knows Hugh Jackman's career and will make jokes about Hugh Jackman's. And it's almost sitting there, it's almost like a relief to be like, I don't have to try to turn off the part of my mind that engages with the real world behind the scenes, because Deadpool is engaging it as well. And it's part of the story. It's part of the text, all the real world stuff. So I thought that was kind of a fascinating experience that I don't particularly want in Star Wars. I don't want a fourth wall breaking character who knows that people are mad about Ki-Adi-Mundi's age. I do not want that. But I thought it was interesting in terms of Star Wars does not exist in a vacuum, and it is a challenge of the way we talk about it. And it was interesting to see a counterpoint.
This begs I don't know if it could be even on our conversation, because that almost it goes against what I'm so grumpy about these days. I love what you're saying, and I think you're right. Yeah, imagine if Alden Ehrenreich's Solo turned to the camera and was like, "I'm doing all I can," right? You know, like, or you know, did you like that scene? You should have seen the other director's take on it. Like,
right.
You know,
oh, did I shoot first?
Yeah. But I do love the character of Deadpool as portrayed by Ryan Reynolds on the big screen. I'm not familiar with him other than the surface level in the comics, but. Yeah, I'm stuck because we are part of this situation. We were in the past part of shows that were part of what got everyone obsessed with talking about the business. That's something that's not new, but like we're just so aware of it. Where I'm like, could you imagine if you did not know that 2 directors were fired from Solo and that it just was made and just that world does not exist. It will not exist again. But I think about that often. So
yeah. I think it exists only in the eyes of the children. I'm just so happy right now for some child who's just watching the sequel trilogy on an iPad with no knowledge that, some people are, that Rian Johnson directed one, blah, blah, blah. None of that. Just the story.
Yeah.
Jennifer, are you going to run out and see Deadpool and Wolverine?
No. I mean, no shade to the movie. I would see it at home. But I think that the challenge with social media is nowadays celebrities they feel this pressure to be on social media, but I think it really does work against them in a lot of ways. I think of Jennifer Lopez as a great example of that. And I think about someone like Emma Stone, who I believe is not on social media. And it just or like Meryl Streep, they're allowed to just kind of disappear into these characters because we don't really know that much about their personal lives or their thoughts or the little mundane things. I think it's a challenge to be a brand, a celebrity, and an actor, right? I mean, look at, like, we're not seeing Adam Driver like posting selfies, are we? I don't know, maybe we are, but
No.
like, right? I think that's like, it's kind of important to have that separation. And yeah, it's like, people that were on Friends and the challenge of like being associated with a character, except the character now is who you are as a person.
Yes. Yes.
So that's really challenging. I don't know. I don't know what the balance is.
That's really fascinating from that lens too, because Deadpool is a character, but Ryan Reynolds has invested so much of himself, and in some ways, a perfect picture of the successful version of our current media landscape, where actors and creators are asked to also sell the film, not just by doing. I mean, he famously leaked or co-leaked the test footage of Deadpool, got fans to scream, "We want this," and sold the movie. Like, he's the picture of this is what it's like when it works for creators and for audiences to be so invested and so all in. It's fascinating. Fascinating stuff, and interesting to see how it can translate to Star Wars, which I will say to segue into talking more about old Star Wars, because what we're talking about today is an interview with an actor, with the showrunner, John Watts. Star Jude Law and John Watts are both quoted in this big article from People magazine, hyping up Skeleton Crew, all sorts of reveals here. So on the heels of The Acolyte, this big news drop about the next Star Wars television show, Skeleton Crew, came out in People. The show was initially slated for release last year, but got postponed by the writers and actors strike, more real-world stuff. And we've long been hearing rumblings that it would release in the general winter holiday season of this year. And now we have a date, thanks to People. So want to start there at just the release date. Bunch of details in the article that we will get to. But Jennifer, how do you feel about the official release date of Tuesday, December 3rd?
Tuesday?
Is that right?
Yeah, no, I actually wonder about the whole People of it all. Releasing it in People is a choice. My mom subscribes to People magazine. I think there's a certain demographic that is very much into People magazine. And that's a choice, as opposed to like Entertainment Weekly or, some of these other Vanity Fair, right? I think that they're trying to appeal to the normies, which is great. It means that they're confident that the show will appeal to the normies. So choosing December 3rd is good. It's right before winter break begins for school, right? And so, like we've talked about before, the holidays can be a great time for Star Wars. It's where people come together, just because they're forced to be together often. And this gives them something to do while they are forced to be together. Say forced.
You all sit down. We're going to watch Star Wars now.
Force my kids. This is what we're doing on winter break, children.
You're going to watch other children get lost. Do you want this to happen to you, kids? Do you want to find a mysterious ship and get lost in space? Then watch Star Wars. Ken, how do you feel about the release date?
I like the release date. Yeah, it's some holiday work for us too. Not gonna lie and say that doesn't cross my mind, but I'm excited for it. I think it's perfect time. We just had the discussion you're all gonna get soon, actually, on Subjective Wars. We pre-taped an episode about release months in Star Wars and what they mean, and this kind of has that vibe. I like it. I'm with Alex Damon and anyone, and I don't know if you two have speculated as well. I apologize if you have and I've forgotten, but Alex Damon has this good thought of this series has got to have something to do with Life Day, right? It just has that kind of vibe. So I just think it's a perfect mix. I'm excited. And Jen, I really like your point of People magazine. I don't want to push up against any negative stereotypes, but families in line at the grocery store, and if you were to see a People magazine and anything about it of a new Star Wars in it, I know we're more in a digital media world, obviously, but that could be a good spot to be like, where do you want to first introduce Star Wars? To the parents in line with their kids making a noise. Like, look at that. We're going to watch Star Wars. Read this magazine. Here's the Reese's Pieces of the magazine. Now I'm going to buy groceries. I like that idea. I like that thought.
Yeah, I think it seems smart for the show and tracking with everything that the show has been presented as so far.
Yeah.
So I think it's great. Yeah, the December 3rd, the whole holiday time is great. I think I was hoping for a little bit more Thanksgiving-ish for myself because uh, Wikipedia claims it's an 8-episode run. I couldn't find whether or not Lucasfilm has confirmed the number of episodes. It's become pretty standard to double up the premiere night with a 2-episode premiere. So I assume that will happen. But if it is 8 episodes, there's a question of, does it run into 2025? And if they keep just running it on Tuesdays in December, that would mean that one of the episodes drops on actual Christmas Eve, which is for me like, hey, fans, family, the vibes are great. I'd even be fine with trying to talk my dad into watching a random episode of Skeleton Crew with me on Christmas Eve. Like, sorry, kids. All of my nieces and nephews are mostly in their 20s, so we're gonna watch Star Wars. I'd be fine with that as a fan, as a family member, as someone talking about it. That's hard. So I wonder if they're gonna skip. If they're gonna kind of get 4 episodes in and then have holiday break in the holiday show and come back in January, or how the episodes are going to be doled out. That's my only the wintertime, holiday time vibe. Great. The real crunchy, when do the episodes come out? Because we would like to cover them is hard.
Yeah, I'm looking at that December 31st ball dropping in New York while we're covering Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
Not good. Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, does not make sense to me. I don't know.
But I don't even think, and we're joking, half serious, I should say, about the recording schedule of the show, and I don't think they do things for podcasters. But I think you're right, Joseph. Their views would be down regardless. No one's gathering around New Year's Eve to watch anything on streaming, unless it's some band drunk in New York while Anderson Cooper tries to hold back Andy Cohen. They'd lose some clicks and views for sure. So
I think
maybe there's a plan.
If they could do a 4-episode great mid-show cliffhanger and come back in January, that would be fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Fine with that. Jennifer's not because if kids successfully get hooked and then finish the show right when school's starting back up, it's hard, right?
Yeah. I just feel like for Christmas Eve, like we've talked about, people oftentimes will want to get out of the house. Like we've been cooped up. So then being cooped up on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve to watch the Star Wars show, it just feels kind of weird that they wouldn't mind not getting the clicks, I guess is my point.
Yeah. I mean, Doctor Who has had a long and wonderful tradition of a Christmas Day or a New Year's Day release, but that's always kind of at the end. It's like, do all your family stuff, and then in the evening is kind of your last treat. Gather around for this tradition, which is a very different thing to me. So maybe they'll do that. Maybe they'll be like, after you've opened all your presents and had all your hot chocolate and return some of your presents, then watch Star Wars. It'd be fine with me. All right, we have so much to cover. We'll move on. We also learned some names of the characters. In particular, we learned that Jude Law will be portraying Jod Nanawood. And so my question is, why? That is a wilder, weirder, old school EU Star Wars name. And to tip my hand, I got no problem with it, but I'm fascinated by it. Ken, what do you think that tells us about the character or the show, that they didn't go for a Poe Dameron cool sounding, easy to remember name? They did the absolute joke from 2004. Here's how to make a Star Wars character: put a marble in your mouth and some apostrophes. Kind of EU name that people on early Twitter used to poke fun of all the time. Jod Nanawood. Why?
I'm with you on your why, and I think I'm also with you on your curious excitement. That does. That does reek of what you'd name a Jedi. Look, even Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? We know all these, they're weird names. They've always been weird names, unless you're Jedi Master Douglas from the High Republic. But, which again, I like. I don't have a problem with that, but it's just stands out. it's a mouthful for me with my tongue that trips me up so often. I kind of love that. I think it will be for the children in the show. I think it's a built-in joke. That's what I want. That's what I'm going for. I think it's also a clue that it could be a Jedi from the old days, Jod Nanawud. But also, this is going to create some wonderful, precocious comedy moments as young preteens try to say his name.
Jedi Master Jod Nanawud is. I was going to say it's easier to say, but it's not. It's actually it's actually more difficult. Jennifer, how do you feel about the name? What do you think it might say about the show?
Jod is too close to Jude. It's a little weird. Do we say Jod Na? Is that like considered? I would assume that there would maybe be a hyphen to connect them so that we know it's Jod Na. Last name Nawud. I'd want to know more about the planet. Like kind of typically what are we seeing linguistically with the planet, right? And the different characters' names. I mean, that's where I'm going to is like, how did they come up with this name? Where are they drawing this from? What culture? What language? Because it does. I don't know. Now I have a whole new perspective on how they're naming these characters. What is the origin of this? I'm curious.
Yeah,
it almost sounds Native American in some Nanawud. I don't know. That's why I'm like, where is this coming from? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean that's fascinating. I know Lucas sometimes seemed to like really care about names and really care about the kind of like history of what is the culture, what is the vibe, how does that inform the character, and other times he's like, comically flippant about it, of like corn frita being named like that's how my daughter said corn fritters. Famously. And we've talked about before, there's just this fascinating name division in Star Wars where some of the, small characters like Elon Sleaze-Begano is just a like, come at us, who cares? It's space fantasy, it's weird, it's fun, that's part of it, we don't care. His name is Sleaze-Begano, right? But then for like main characters and characters that we would be considered, that we want to invest in, talk about a lot, think is cool, especially in recent times, are like, we're not going weird. It's Poe Dameron, right? It's Kylo Ren. It's Din Djarin. Din Djarin's like damn cool name. So if this was like one of the kids is named Jod Nanawud, or maybe even the villain, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's kind of Star Wars, slightly deeper bench. It's okay to be weird name. For them to give the main character, to give Jude Law the it's okay to be weird name from 90s EU, feels like that's not an accident. That's a choice. And they know the impact that it's going to have on deeper in fans. And for me, I love it. I want Star Wars to be weird. I love Star Wars because it is a little odd. It's not perfect. It's very human and organic. It's like I always describe it with like a table with 3 legs, and it wobbles a little, and that's part of its charm to me. So I really love this choice, that it is kind of Star Wars being like, we're not ashamed to be us. And sometimes even a main character has a potentially dumbass name. We don't care. That's part of the charm of like in the EU days and in the EU books, people legitimately fell in love with names like this and took them very, very seriously. Yeah. And why not? That's how I'm feeling about it. Any other thoughts? Ken, you've historically struggled with some of the pulpier names. Are you challenged by this one?
No, because it's very musical. Depending on how you say it. I like Jed. You said Jod Nawud, and then Joseph and I kind of landed on Jod Nanawud, like it's a backing lyric in a Lionel Richie song from '83. I'm excited, and the Captain Phasma of it all. But that's I don't even know if I've changed my opinion on that as more. It's just been a happy shrug of like, hey, this is why you buy the ticket. This is why you get the e-ticket ride to Star Wars. You're going to have cool, poignant moments. You're going to have whiz-bang action. And you're also going to get to say Kylo Ren and then Jod Nanawud. And it's all the same. And I love it. And for a show, look, we're going to, as we dive into Skeleton Crew here and going forward, like, I'm more excited than I thought I'd be. I think just at that time, as I talked about where I am with Solo Star Wars and everything, I kind of want this, where this is inviting you to be like, don't be so serious. This is a fun show.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally feel the same way. Jennifer, any other thoughts on Jod Nanawud?
I like Jodna, if it was one word, Jodna Nawud. Jodna, because that's easier to say. If the characters are saying Jodna, that to me just kind of makes more sense as opposed to Jod Wood. Or give me an apostrophe, something. I don't know. I'm struggling with his name. I'm also wondering if it's an alias. Like, could it possibly be like a name, a fake name that he's created? I don't know. I like Jodna.
That would be amazing.
Jodna, as opposed to Jodna. So, anyways,
I'm just going off what people said, and there's nothing to help linguistically. There's no hyphens or apostrophes or anything. And Na is his middle name, and he only uses it on his passport. People did not include any of that, so I'm going with Jodna Nawood until I'm told I'm wrong. And I love the idea that it's a secret name.
Yeah,
his real name is like Blake Daggerfire or something cool.
Yeah, there's a good name.
Well, it's taking me back to, there was a period of time in the mid 90s where, as the prequels were coming, where there was actual discussion in magazine stuff of like, well, maybe Obi-Wan Kenobi is code for Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he was the clone, or he was the prime version of this guy. And we spent a good year in like 1994 wondering about this stuff.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. There you have it. He's a clone of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Jodna Nawood. We figured it out. We also got the names of the 4 kids. Those names are Wim, KB, Fern, and Neil, Neel. Neil appears to be a young Ortolan like Max Rebo with arms. For anybody who is not caught up on the Ortolan debate of do they have 4 limbs that are arms and legs, or do they have 2 legs that they can use like arms? And endless fascinating discussion there. Jennifer, how do you feel about the kids, their names, their looks, the Ortolan of it all? Are you excited?
I don't care about the kids. I only care about Neil. That's I'm kidding. I love you, kids. I love you. No, but when I saw, I mean, never act with babies and animals. And there's a reason why, because they steal the freaking show. And already Neil has stolen my heart. I am intrigued. I am fascinated. Yes, is Neil an Ortolan? I don't know. What does that say about Max Rebo? Anyways, I'm thrilled. And I just love it because it's such a weird choice to have one of the main characters be an alien. I just love that. So that's already got me hooked.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I absolutely love it. I love that they took, like, we got 4 kids. There's no reason a main one couldn't be, an alien character. We're going on now years of Star Wars developing deep emotional attachments to droids whose faces don't move. Half the point of The Mandalorian is the man's not taking his helmet off, and we still developed deep emotional connections with him. So the kind of old school thought of like, you can't have a main character who's an alien. I feel like Star Wars has more than proven you can. So I'm really happy to see that happening. Ken, what are your thoughts on the kids and Neil? Neil is one of the kids, but
Neil is, he's a 59-year-old Ortolan. I'm with these, too close to Grogu, right? I'm with these kids, but I'm also with you, Jen. I'm like, Neil's kind of stole the hype over the last week. It's those eyes. He's got those little kid eyes, so hopeful for the future, but also a little frightened with what's going on. I think, speaking of names, Wim, KB, Fern, Neil, but with 2 E's, this is Star Wars. And if we're looking at a Goonies, Amblin era inspired Star Wars show, I think they've nailed it with this. And as far as the young Ortolan, I am an arms truther. So I think this canonizes the arms for me. No legs playing that I always forget the instrument, but sorry, Max Rebo, you got arms.
Yeah. I really like, outside of Neil, I like that, I believe it's KB has the sort of a Geordie LaForge from Next Generation goggles.
Yep.
I'm curious about if that's going to play into the storytelling of that character's culture, history, individuality, any of that stuff. I'm excited to see about that. And for Neil, the arms, legs things is one of those real deep cut things that has kind of grown into being discussed more on social media. We're going to talk more about the Easter egg comments in this People Magazine article. But I wonder if they're just going to be, not only are we going to put an Ortolan in it, we are going to canonize the arms and legs discussion. And if it is going to be like the Mandalorian, early days when people were like, but they do take their helmets off. And they're like, wait, actually, it's a large culture and there's lots of differences. Like, why can't there be Ortolans who have arms and legs and Ortolans who have legs that are arms? And
It's
it
true.
would be great if somebody was weird to Neil about it, and Neil was like, "What?
Yeah.
There's variety in our people. What's wrong with that, you weirdos?"
Maybe it's
Right?
a weird.
Jennifer, for those listening, is holding up the Max Rebo figure that does indeed have arms and legs and a diaper. So I
And it's
believe
over.
all those things are true.
Maybe this is some something that happens in puberty. Maybe your arms move down. I don't know. Maybe your legs fall off. I don't know what goes on there in culture.
Oh my gosh.
I'm getting my adult
Oh.
limbs in. My arm hips are coming in. Amazing.
Freaky.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We also got the reveal of Nick Frost's character. Here's a quote from the article. The series will introduce a new droid named SM33, who Watts exclusively tells people will be voiced by Nick Frost. He's like a rusty old cranky droid that sort of reluctantly helps the kids along the way, he says with a laugh, noting how fun and absolutely perfect Frost's contributions are. He adds, the other thing about him is that he is the first mate of a mysterious ship. Jennifer, how are you feeling about this new droid? Do you think he'll break new ground as we get more and more droids into Star Wars? And any speculation on the mystery ship?
I don't know about that, but I do love cranky droids. I mean, K2SO, so fun and snarky. But Nick Frost is so great. I had forgotten who he was until I just looked him up right now. I'm actually really excited to hear his performance of this new droid, and I imagine the droid will be a fan favorite. There's just so many great characters. I'm already so excited. I'm so excited.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I love Nick Frost. He's done great work, with all the Cornetto trilogy, and he did some great stuff in Doctor Who. And I'm very excited to see him play a cranky droid. K2SO came to my mind too, and I like that K2SO has a little bit more of that. The idea that he can't stop himself from saying what's on his mind. That's different than somebody who's like, I'm grumpy and angry and old, and I choose to complain about it. I actively choose to complain about it is a great distinction for me. I'm very hopeful for a grump because I always like grumpy characters. But in as much as this show is young kids going out and having to face the galaxy, I also think there's like a great real world truth in that of like, I remember being young and, you're scared to figure out the world and you encounter just like some vice principal or some secretary who's just, or an eye doctor who's just grumpy, just angry at the world. And as a kid, you're like, did I do something? Is the world that bad? Why is Ed or Susan just so angry at everything all the time? To me, it is a little bit of a rite of passage to encounter someone who is helping you and generally being kind to you, but their entire aspect is just grumpy at the world. So I think that's kind of cool from a rite of passage growing up perspective too. Ken, you love grumps. How are you feeling about this?
Yeah. Game recognizes game. Love this. This is you're almost describing like a Wilford Brimley character in either the Ewok Adventures or anything he showed up in. Love it. Yeah, I'm a fan of Edward Rich, and Nick Frost. I think is 2 years older than Wilford Brimley in Cocoon. I'm a big fan of Nick Frost as well. Hot Fuzz, one of my favorite films of all time. I'm glad you reminded me. It was the Cornetto trilogy, which is an ice cream. In my head, I was like, the Palmetto I couldn't remember it. My days of movie trivia are far behind me, but I think it's a great cast. In fact, so much so that when I saw this, I was like, no, I thought he already did a droid. Didn't he do a droid? No. So a lot of other British comedic actors have been droids and done very well. But I think this is all pitch perfect. I think, for a series in which 4 kids go on an adventure, you got a mysterious ship. Ooh, already that. And then you got kind of a cranky droid who's in that ship. I love it. And look, we got so many droids now and so many different ways and so many similar ways. And I think it works, all of them. This seems a little bit more in line with R2. Little cranky droid. Drops a bleep bomb every now and then.
Yeah. Love it. And should point out that the name SM33 does read much, as other people have pointed out. I saw our friend Alex Damon pointing this out. Does read like Smee, famous pirate from literature. So that does, we know that Vane, the pirate, is going to be in it as well. So it does speak more to pirate connections and vibes in this. As far as the mysterious ship, it feels to me like that's probably the catalyst of the show, that they find some weird crash ship off in the woods is a great on their home planet, and the ship awakens, and a grumpy droid takes them on a journey. Is a kickoff to their adventure would be swell.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. That's great.
So we got some details about the premise of the show, a slightly expanded description of it. Here's a few quotes. When four kids make a mysterious discovery on their seemingly safe home planet, they get lost in a strange and dangerous galaxy, according to the show's official synopsis. Finding their way home, meeting unlikely allies and enemies will be a greater adventure than they ever imagined. Jude Law tells People that the first word that comes to my mind when describing the series is joyful. He also explains that viewers will watch the kids maneuver through places where they shouldn't be, and adds that seeing children in a Star Wars environment is thrilling and very, very unique. So a lot of different perspectives on the actual plot description, the mood of being joyful, that it's the thrill of seeing the kids in places they shouldn't be. Ken, what's exciting or interesting to you about this description, and what does it make you think the show will actually be like?
Joyful, fun. This is what I keep hearing. I don't know. A lot of people have any inside information on this, but the one time I did hear something, it was just like this person was asked, "Well, what makes you really think this is so great?" And they shook their head and went like, "It's just so fun, so fun." And I think this premise is direct and simple. It's timeless. It's a hero's journey. A viewer transported away. For whatever reason, and you become something else, and you are forever changed, right? And then the idea of going home and what that's going to do. And even though these kids, they're not going to be like the hobbits sitting at the tavern going, "Well, we just fought a war for rings, where something ain't right." But it's going to have that emotional overtone. It's going to be like you are forever changed. You're home now, but you've gone out and experienced this world that you did not know existed. It's so simple and direct to the core tenets of Star Wars. That I'm just excited, and not that other things have moved off that. Most modern storytelling and this mythic, these big mythic blockbusters has that going on. I totally get that, but this just seems to be breaking it down. And I know I'm hammering it, and I know it's a very personal point of view right now, but the idea of Star Wars being completely joyful is something I'm just looking forward to. It does not negate, does not take away from anything else before, because I like Kenobi contemplating in the desert. I've wanted that. I did not want Andor to be joyful. That would have been odd. But I'm excited for what this description is setting me up for.
Yeah, I think it could be a great compliment to Acolyte, that Star Wars can be everything from, a dark and brooding tragedy of mistakes that characters make, striving to do the right thing, versus kids having their first adventure out in the galaxy. I think we'll talk about a little bit more about kind of the sort of the thematic, but in terms of just like the actual, like, what is the show on the surface, I feel like it's just reinforcing again and again that it's going to be fun and funny. There's stuff in the People magazine about they're going to be zipping around on bikes. The droid's going to be cracking grumpy jokes. I fully expect the use of the word wizard and maybe some new fun things that kids say. What's the hip now version of wizard during this part of the Star Wars storytelling? The one thing that I really hope for in all the sort of the funny whiz bang is I hope that there are some moments that are truly terrifying if you look at them through a kid's eyes, because I think that's what sort of balances out this tale of, the child on having to face the fear to find the wonder of being lost in a big galaxy, of encountering something truly terrifying and then discovering, oh, it isn't as scary as I thought, or, oh, I can make my way past it. And it was worth it to get past this really scary moment to get to this wonderful thing. I hope that is supported by some times where you're like, yeah, that is a scary situation for a kid. Like, not anything. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's my hope for the ingredients. Jennifer, what are you thinking about the experience of just like really the surface level of what the show is?
I think one of the interesting things is I can't think of a show that's like this on streaming right now, because it really is going to be playing like an Amblin movie, as they keep saying, on the two levels, right? Appealing to adults and kids. And that is unique to, I feel like, the movies. And I'm thinking about the shows that my kids have watched. There's a show on Netflix. I was trying to find it. I can't think of what it's called, where it's like about a bunch of kids who become a part of a detective agency. But when I sit and watch it with them, I can enjoy it, but it certainly doesn't feel like it's for me. You know what I mean? And that is what I think this show really has going for it, is that it is going to be fun for adults to escape into, but also really exciting and thrilling. And like you're saying, maybe even potentially scary for kids to watch. And I really, really like that, because it is something that we see often in movies, but not so much in streaming. It feels like streaming is much more like, here is young kids, here's kind of middle kids, here's like, Wednesday, which is kind of like teens and up, right? So anyways, they got this market cornered, is what I'm saying.
That's a great thought, because like I think a lot of people are going to compare it to Stranger Things, because Stranger Things so pulled from the Amblin Goonies playbook that in the 80s nostalgia. But even like the first season of Stranger Things, we spent a decent amount of time with adults, and like a lot of the emotional thrust of the first season of Stranger Things was Winona Ryder's character's fear and the risk that the sheriff was going to fail the kids. So that's a really interesting thing for me to think about with this, of like, obviously we got Jod and Nawood, and how much of an adult perspective are we going to get of him worrying about the kids? So like as adults or as parents, we can kind of relate to him of like, oh, please, he's going on his journey not to fail these kids, and that we as adults can hook into that emotional tension.
Right. And I'd never let my 4-year-old watch Stranger Things, like that's what I think is so great about this, is it does feel like it has that Stranger Things vibe, but it is family friendly. We're not going to get that kind of the scariness that some of these other shows have, which are fantastic and I love, but I do want to be able to watch it with my soon to be 5-year-old.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I feel like so far they're pitching that way, and like, yeah, Stranger Things is it's definitely some horror vibes and some straight up body horror and all that.
Yeah.
I'm still disturbed.
I'm 48. Anytime they go to the upside down, I'm like, no, we don't do that. We don't do that. We don't do that.
No, this whole world has a bad skincare routine. Everything is flaking. This is disturbing.
No. Yeah.
So Ken got us talking about some of the theme stuff, which is absolutely great. Jude Law tells people that he and his younger cast members are all in a constant state of confusion and jeopardy and challenge. He adds the series is very much a piece about working together and overcoming fears and overcoming perhaps one's own opinion of oneself or one's own weakness in order to succeed. So, Jennifer, what's interesting to you about that thematic idea and how it might fit into the larger Mandoverse?
I think about it from a kid's perspective and what kids wrestle with, these coming of age stories, doubting oneself, believing that you're limited to what you believe is your talent, but then being pushed because maybe other people can see that you can do it, or other people believe in you, which then kind of, or you're just thrust into a situation where you got no choice but to sink or swim, right? Which I think is what's going to be happening here, where people are forced to go beyond their comfort zone. So I'm excited about that. I think it's going to be a great lesson for kids, but also for me. I could really use that type of story right now.
Yeah, no, I think that's what's so powerful about these kinds of going into the dark woods story, because I think it is something that kids need to learn, but we all need to do constantly. I really agree with everything Ken was saying about the thematic nature of this, even if this isn't a moment where the kids are choosing, but rather they're thrown into the pool and sink or swim by accident. I'm just really obsessed with this painting by this Norwegian artist that I got to see in person, the artist Theodor Kittelsen, who did a lot of the art of in mythic storytelling of Norwegian trolls. The painting is part of a whole series of paintings called Far, Far Away, Soria Moria Palace Shimmered Like Gold. And it just really captured me, because it's this whole idea in an image. It's just a child staring at misty mountains and dark clouds, and something golden is shimmering in the distance. And it was really inspiring to me, because it is like you need to get past the fear to experience the wonder. You need to go down in that dark valley. You don't know what's there, but there's something tempting you into it and rewarding you. And I'm really interested to see how this show really plays that out of, is it just a matter of the kids want to get home, and when they get home, they're changed, or do they truly discover, something more of themselves, something wonderful in the galaxy? Do they all go home wanting to be explorers and wanting to be a bigger part of the galaxy and that kind of thing? Ken, do you have any other thematic thoughts or how this show might tie into the larger Mandoverse?
I think that's about finding out who you are at any point in your life. And I think, Jen, these are universal themes, right? That's the lie we all get told, that the adults got it figured out. I'm late 40s going, wait, now who am I? What's my fears? How do I conquer them? And I think we're all going to connect with those. But also, going back to, I don't want to give away, we didn't get a lot of information at Star Wars Celebration London, but we did have that little trailer, which I thought was wonderful, which definitely had parents all the way through it, which definitely is going to focus on the adults in the stories. It's just they're not the spotlight, but the fears they have to overcome. Who are they, and what's the opinion of themselves? Well, can they? They don't have a choice in letting these kids go on this adventure, it seems, but can they come to terms with what's going on there? I think it's all going to be present. And, you look at Mandalorian, you look at Book of Boba Fett, you look at even Ahsoka and some of the stuff that her and Sabine are going through. Like, who are we at this point in the galaxy? Who do we want to be? Who can we be? And what's holding us back? I think it's all connected thematically, and it's strung together with pirates. They're the glue. They're the glue.
Yeah. I think the choice to make this part of the Mandoverse, to me, I don't feel like it's going to be it. And Thrawn's going to show up, and it's a building block to Dave Filoni's movie. But I do think it isn't just a timeline choice. I think it's got to be a thematic choice. And Mandoverse has been so much about characters who realize we have a little bit of a clean slate on the galaxy after this horrible galactic civil war, and we want to change in the forces that try to stop them from changing. I think it's so crystallized when that pirate is like, this can't be a school, it has to be a bar. I'm not letting you change it. It has to stay somewhere, adult and scary. It can't be somewhere hopeful or looking to the future. So I'm wondering if it might play into that theme. If the children go out into the galaxy, they get to truly see the galaxy of like, this is the galaxy the adults left for us, and come back home and like, parents, we would like you to make these changes in the galaxy for us, please.
We have a list.
Do a better job with this galaxy. Make some change. Would be really interesting to me.
Neil, please read the list.
Please read the list of demands. I hope this show ends with a children's list of demands. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back to discuss a little bit more of this article from People Magazine and look ahead at news that may or may not come out of the big convention D23 back in a moment. And we are back to continue our discussion of Skeleton Crew: The Adventures of John and Wood. Official subtitle I just made up. So final big piece of news for me in this article was that there was kind of a weird, in my opinion, emphasis on Easter eggs in the headline itself. The headline of this article was Jude Law teases childhood adventure and Star Wars Easter eggs in Skeleton Crew series. And then there's some actual quotes about Easter eggs. Jude Law says, if you look carefully, we got some Star Wars tech that dates right back, I believe, to the original film. They do Easter eggs so well. That's one of the joys, I think, of this universe. For those who know, there are these little details always hidden away, or Easter eggs that people can find and link up. The showrunner, John Watt, says, I can't wait. I mean, even in the first episode, there's a couple of really, really great references that certain fans will immediately recognize. Despite this, the duo assure viewers that they don't need to be well-versed in the intergalactic franchise to appreciate the magic. You don't have to know everything about Star Wars to enjoy the show. Watts shares, you can come into it completely fresh and enjoy the story. But if you do happen to be a Star Wars superfan, there's a lot for you. So, Ken, is this a case in your mind of People Magazine maybe overemphasizing the Easter eggs? And at this point, what qualifies as an Easter egg or a deep cut reference to you these days?
I think they're just doing what everyone else would do. It's par for the course. I could sit here and get a little grumpy in my car over what Easter eggs have become. An Easter egg is when that, hey, did you see that lion take a nap in the puff of the smoke? Freeze frame it. It's a penis. That's an Easter egg. That's what it was. It's turned into something else where now it's set decoration. It's production design. It is, that thing that blue milk from there, it's over there, but I have to be fine with it. Otherwise I'm going to drive myself crazy. And I enjoy them, right? It's just world building to me. It's the connections. I do think there's an emphasis on them. We discuss them. Our friends discuss them. There's a lot of people doing good things with them. I want to make sure that I'm clear on that. I enjoy them too. I finish a book, I close it, I go to Alex and Molly's channel, and what are the 49 Easter eggs in this book that I missed? I absolutely go to that. But I do think there's a weird emphasis on it, and it manifests in this thing of like, but don't worry, just because there's blue milk in it and you don't know that's from New Hope, you can still watch this. Like, yeah, of course, like that should be a given. But I think we just in pop culture, there's so much value and currency on knowing 59 things that you saw on that show that becomes the number one thing, as opposed to. But it's also a thematically rich season or series on fun and growth and being a kid. Like that should be the number one thing. But I guess you can't do emotional Easter eggs. Ding! This is growth. Maybe we could try it. But I just think people's being part of the machine here, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I tend to agree with it. I think it's in this whole article is them using quotes from Jude Law and John Watts with any questions that were asked of them in the interview process extracted. So yes. I think for me, it's important to read it of like, did John Watts and Jude Law come in there going, we are going to sell the world on Easter eggs? Or because it's a part of the pop culture discussion, did the interviewer understandably say, hey, a lot of Star Wars shows have lots of references to other Star Wars shows. Are there a lot of Easter eggs? And Jude Law's like, yeah, I think there was one of them gonky droids in the background. That's from the first one, right? Like, it doesn't feel like this is an agenda that the creators came in with that is what they wanted to express. It seems like it's a normal thing for an interviewer to ask, but then the way putting it in the headline puts a little bit of an overemphasis on it for me. Jennifer, how do you feel about the emphasis on Easter eggs in this article?
Personally, I find it to be a little, no, I'm not, don't mean any offense to Jude Law and John Watts, but personally, I don't care about Easter eggs because it seems silly. Like, of course there's going to be Easter eggs. Of course there's going to be things that connect because it's Star Wars. I would hope that there are some connections in this galaxy that they have been working on since the 70s. Like, good Lord. Yeah. So we are going to see some species that we've seen before or some sort of tech that we've seen before. It's like, yeah. Okay. But I think part of the reason why I'm a little like cranky about it, like Nick Frost's character, is like we get these, these videos by people, here are the Easter eggs that you've missed. And it makes me feel like I'm supposed to feel bad that I missed these Easter eggs. It's like, I'm just trying to enjoy the story. If I want to take it frame by frame, I'll do that another time. But right now, I just want to enjoy the story, let it wash over me. And I don't care about the Easter eggs. And rant.
No, I think that's a great rant, and I think it is, a thing where the meta text has become louder than the text intends. I always go to Rogue One of like, Ponda Baba and Dr. Evison are there because Gareth Edwards had a Walrus Man action figure and loved those guys, and it's a meaningless expression of a fan's love, and everybody who's getting to touch Star Wars is a creator, regardless of their age, are fans, and sometimes they want to throw in something that they really love. But then either people make a big deal out of it by having videos that are framed in a "you missed it" way, which a lot of people don't do that. Our friends at Star Wars Explained don't shame people. They help people. Other people do still frame it as shaming of you missed it or you need an explainer. Or other people on the other side will be like, Star Wars is, creatively bankrupt. They can't make anything without throwing in a legacy character. So all of my emotions are like, wait, it's nothing about what was actually on screen usually. It's usually about the metatextual debate, either making too big of it, a deal of it in multiple directions for my tastes.
I agree fully. It's maybe a larger conversation. And it comes up every now and then too, because I just straight up have some bitterness towards it. Where like what you're describing with Ponda Baba and Dr. Evanson, it's like that's exactly what it is, and just have some fun. It's the idea of this the member berries. They're dangling member berries in front of you. I hate that term, and I really have butted up against people in my workspace that used it as a negative. There was a infamous series of videos out of Wisconsin that made fun of ATSDs. Like, they're just making you like that AT. Like, of course that would be there. It's Star Wars set a few days before Rogue One. An ATSD would be there. Like that's not the film wasn't saying, "Hey, stop, everybody, we got an ATSD," right? That's the most important thing. It's just set decorating, and I want it to be there. It'd be weird if it wasn't. That'd be more weird. And Jen, I agree with you. Some of the shaming, it's a value put on it. Yeah, and I was going to do. We did a series of parody videos at Collider that got shut down, and the final one actually recorded the audio was a hidden Easter egg gems in Rogue One kind of thing. The final one was Darth Vader. He first appeared in New Hope. It's like, of course, and maybe thankfully it got shut down, but yeah, because I'm still bitter about it. But but to the point, like, there's nothing wrong with this interview. There's nothing wrong with the questions. It's just where we're at. It's that bigger conversation about 10 plus years of film punditry has led us to. There was one of the reviews, one of the big reviews of either Ahsoka or I think it was Ahsoka, was just like not enough Easter eggs. Like, was one of the things that was like, what? Like, Ahsoka herself's an Easter egg. She's an Easter egg of the Clone Wars. Like, calm down.
Yeah.
It feels like we're searching for the hidden Mickeys, which to me is like, okay, I'll go find the hidden Mickeys.
Which is fun.
That's fun.
I get the book out too. Go. There's one by this taco stand. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or someone's name is scrawled on the wall in Arabesh. Like, okay, that's fun.
That's neat.
But like Carol, like you're saying, Ponda Baba and Dr. Evison, it's like, no, that's not really a true Easter egg for me personally. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of those Easter eggs, like Quinlan Voss's name, like that's really fun because the show is not hung on it. We get an emotional beat from Obi-Wan that he's emotionally moved by, that somebody he knows has passed through that. You do not need to know who Quinlan Voss is to enjoy it, but if you do, it gives you hope and needs something like. So like, I'd be happy if this show does have some sort of tongue-in-cheek joke about ortolan limbs. Like, that's fine. That's fun. That is something for people who are in. Ridiculously deep into Star Wars in a good, fun way. But I also really agree with you, Jennifer. We've talked about this before, but that it's world building or galaxy building. If one of the kids' parents have a beat up old T-16 Skyhopper in the garage, that isn't necessarily to me like an Easter egg from A New Hope. It's the world. It's like when I see a gangster smoke a Lucky Strike in a Scorsese movie, I'm not like, that's an Easter egg from Goodfellas connecting. Like, no, it's a cigarette that gangsters smoke. It just exists in the world, you know?
Can we please launch Scorsese Explain? Scorsese Explain. This is this cab. this same cab driven in taxi driver.
They also eat pasta. Yeah. Anyway, on the other side of it, it feels like if John Watts and Jude Law were being asked a lot about Easter eggs, I think they seem to have done their due diligence by also reassuring, like, look, it isn't just a collection of references to past Star Wars storytelling. You can come in completely fresh. But to be fair, we've been hearing this from both Star Wars and Marvel, these huge storytelling franchises trying to thread the needle between rewarding fans who are very deep into it and also making it approachable to bring in new fans. Ken, do you think that will be true of this show? Do you think this one will really be one that you don't need anything else? You can just come in.
Yeah, I think that's the case for just about any series. You know, even look, Ahsoka, I think was. You know, it helped a lot to watch Rebels and Clone Wars, all that stuff. But I know people that were fans of that show that aren't familiar with it, and they're even Star Wars fans. But yeah, no, absolutely. I think this is I trust these creators to do their job, create a series that can be watched as a series, and they will.
Yeah, Jennifer, how about you?
Yeah, I think that anybody will be able to come in fresh to this show. I think it's going to have the Easter eggs for the hardcore fans. But I do think that, if you've never seen, I mean, that's why they're in People Magazine. That's why they're advertising in People Magazine. Are not up on, whatever, or even, I thought the Acolyte did the same thing. You could go in completely fresh. And I had never read anything in the High Republic, and I still was able to enjoy it. So I like it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the only thing in Acolyte, which is arguable to me, is people who have a relationship with Darth Plagueis probably got a bigger emotional pop. But even if you're like, who's that creepy weirdo? You're still emotionally affected of like, oh, the stranger is not alone. He is not entirely in charge. He is either being watched over or watched against his will by a creepy weirdo. So you still get the emotional impact, even if you have no idea what a Darth Plagueis is. If you think that's a skin condition, you still get something out of it. And that to me is the most important thing of, is it emotionally resonant whether you know the information or not. And, for me, there were some moments in Ahsoka of like, I have a lot of emotional resonance from Jason, but I wonder if other people do. And clearly some people told us like, yeah, I had no idea who that kid was, but it worked for me. And I heard from other people like, I didn't know who these characters were and I didn't know I was supposed to care. So, it's all subjective always. My one thought is, since this is set in the Mandoverse, is kind of my final question for you both on Skeleton Crew. Ken, how would you feel if it did, while still being entirely emotionally understandable to new viewers, if it did roll in a little bit of big picture events from the Mandoverse, or even, we know Vane from the third season of Mandalorian is going to show up, but like, if they tied it into Ahsoka, if one of the places they crash is Dathomir and the Night Sisters have recently returned, it's a great. You don't need to know you don't need to have watched Ahsoka to be a kid and go, they landed on a witch planet. Them kids are in trouble.
Yeah.
But it would have a bigger, moving forward of the overall story. How would you feel if the show threaded the needle in that way?
I'd be okay with that in certain areas. It'd be kind of fun. And I think this show seemed to be, I have no business insider knowledge on it, but it seems to be pitched on its own. And then like, hey, it's in this era. Let's work it. Let's bring in Johnny Favs and Filoni. And yeah, it makes some sense. And I'm not expecting anything big. I don't think you are as well, but it'd be fun. It would make a lot of sense. I just want it to be like Vane crying over the death of Gorian Shard for like half an episode. Can we get that emotional completion of the story? Maybe episode 4 is the kids stumble onto Ahsoka and Luke at a campfire having a campfire conversation, and they just listen for 45 minutes. I jest, everybody. I jest.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Can you imagine how upset people would be if they like crashed on Dathomir and then the entire rest of the episode is just a Thrawn episode? I don't think that will happen. Jennifer, how would you feel about threading the needle of maybe advancing a little bit of the big picture storytelling of the Mandoverse, but in a way that's still entirely accessible?
I don't know how I feel about that. I do like having Vane there. I think that really works story-wise, but I don't feel comfortable with them continuing. I think that's part of the problem with Book of Boba Fett, was that it was kind of like a continuation of The Mandalorian, and people were like, oh, what is this? Well, why didn't they just make this part of The Mandalorian? That's Boba Fett. Anyways, I just feel like, let Skeleton Crew just be the Skeleton Crew, and you can have Vane, whatever, but let's just keep it on its own little island. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. I'm very interested to see, because that is my biggest question. If I trust them, I do think they're going to make it entirely emotionally and factually accessible. But I wonder if they will kind of try to tie in a little bit of events or locations from the larger Mandoverse. Can't wait to see. But there you have it. The great bumper sticker from Jennifer Landa. Let Skeleton Crew be Skeleton Crew as we go toward the future. Speaking of the future, let's talk about next week. What we'll be talking about right here next week. There might be news from D23, the big Disney convention. We had been hearing rumblings that there kind of wasn't going to be much presence from Lucasfilm at D23, Disney's big convention. But then the company, Lucasfilm, put out an article on StarWars.com hyping up the D23 convention and how Star Wars will be involved. There are a bunch of different panels. There's one on animation. There's one with Manny Jacinto we'll talk about. There's celebrations for Frank Oz and Harrison Ford, I believe. All sorts of great Star Wars stuff. But then they specifically mention the Friday night of the convention is the big Disney Entertainment Showcase. In the press release says, join some of your favorite stars as they give you a peek behind the curtain at upcoming projects. Never before seen footage, surprise announcements, and special guests, musical performances, and exclusive new content coming to the big screen, your small screens, and stages worldwide. Now, that is talking about everything that Disney is presenting, but Lucasfilm chose to present this as a place where you'll hear something about Star Wars. So, Ken, what are your hopes for Star Wars news? A Skeleton Crew trailer and/or Season 2 trailer, Mando and Grogu news, New Jedi Order, animated series, a stage production of Kenobi?
Yeah. Waiting for Kenobi. I definitely think we're gonna get a trailer for Skeleton Crew. Maybe something more concrete for Andor, especially if it's early 2025, and a cast reveal, a little more information, Mandalorian and Grogu. Beyond that, it'd be frosting on a cake for me. And yeah, to be clear, like this, when rumblings, like a lot of folks I know who know people who know, a lot of them was like, Lucasfilm's not really, they're not doing much at D23, and that just goes to show that scoops and sources aren't always up to date, or maybe the information changes after you get it. And I am expecting something now based on just the way it was presented on StarWars.com. Is it again going to be huge? That's why I'm not expecting like New Jedi Order or Daisy Ridley to show up. It's all possible. Of course, we always keep that open door to the possibilities, but I think there's some firming up some things in that first quarter of 2025 and looking ahead to the next film, as well as getting you psyched up for Skeleton Crew. That would be a win for me.
Yeah. Jennifer, what are your hopes or thoughts on what will be presented on that Friday night showcase for Star Wars?
I am mad. I have FOMO because in previous years, Lucasfilm has not had much of a presence at D23. And when I saw that Star Wars was hyping it up and I went to the panel schedule and I saw all the panels, I was like, what? And the worst part is I'm going to actually be in Anaheim the day before. So I'm a little mad. But in terms of what's going to actually be released, because it is Disney, I'm sure Disney has a full slate of things that they're going to be sharing. I think the only thing we are going to get is maybe Jude Law. Some of the kids might come out. I think we're going to get a trailer. I think it's going to be all Skeleton Crew. And that's it. I really think so. I think the focus is going to be on, I don't know, what do they have? Disney has doesn't they have like Moana? They have tons of stuff coming up. That's the focus. But there is going to be something there.
Yeah, and Marvel just sort of reframed everything at Comic-Con, so I think hyping a little bit more of that will definitely be a big part of it as well.
You're also reminding me, Jen, that this is a great headliner show, a comedy show, but each headliner is doing about 8 minutes. This is not as much time as you think.
Yeah,
right.
I agree with the Skeleton Crew trailer because we saw one over a year ago in London. So with the People magazine, that's the next 1-2 punch. I would not be at all surprised to see a sort of behind the scenes trailer for Andor season 2, like they've done before, like a trailer for it, but a little behind the scenes sizzle to keep that alive. I do expect some sort of Mando and Grogu update because that is the next film, and I think they want to reassure fans and shareholders that the film side is moving forward with confidence. I don't expect anything huge. Maybe Jon Favreau walks out there and Dave Filoni and they share a new poster, or a behind the scenes trailer. If, I believe filming has started. I think there's lots of different sources that I wouldn't be surprised to see them really hype up the movie side. I think maybe an animated show announcement. They've got an animated show panel later. This would be a good place to do it. And the only thing I would expect at all about any major news would be a surprise pop at the end, because D23 has gone up and down. But in 2019, it was D23 that had the surprise Ewan McGregor Kenobi pop at the end, where we got next to no information about the show. It was just, yes, we're making a Kenobi show, and yes, Ewan McGregor is returning. So if they had something in their pocket like that, if Lando's moving forward and they can do a Donald Glover pop, maybe, but I'm not holding my breath either.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So final question here about D23. On Saturday, there's a talk with Manny Jacinto with this description. Join the Acolytes, Manny Jacinto, as he reflects on the first season of the series and reveals new insights on The Stranger. So we've all talked about wanting a second season of The Acolyte. It is hard to figure out these days what success means to a streamer, what metrics they are using to decide whether or not something gets a second season. So we're all kind of left reading random tea leaves. Jennifer, does using the term first season in this official description give you hope that a second season will be announced or is happening?
Shout out to, I forget who it was on our Discord that pointed that out, because I had missed it. I just scanned the whatchamacallit description. First season. Oh, there is 100% going to be a set. Okay, no, I'm not 100%. There is a really good chance. It's like Jim Carrey. So you're telling me that there's a chance. I really think this is intentional that they said first season. I don't know if we're going to get an announcement with Manny Jacinto in that panel or talk? Or is it going to be like on that stage where people are kind of walking by, like how they did?
The main
Like,
stage,
how is that going to work?
I don't know.
I
I've
don't know.
never been to D23, so I don't know if this is a separate, smaller panel room or like, that stage that they have at Celebration, which I'm familiar with. Yeah,
Right. That's kind
it's
of
on the
what I
show
was
floor.
envisioning, but we could get a second season announcement. I don't know. Yeah, what are the metrics? Is it engagement? Because there's been a lot of engagement. There's been a lot of talk online about the show, and if they're going based on that, then of course they have to greenlight a second season. I'm so sad I'm missing this panel. I want to go see it in person, you guys. Really upset.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's just really smart of them to have a panel with him because that is the, like, he was not that huge of a surprise. We all guessed, but we didn't know ahead of time. Some people guessed from the trailer where he was, using the Sith code about peace being a lie. But now that we get to have seen the whole arc of his character, and he himself is a great, charming speaker, it's super smart to have this panel with just him. Is really, really great. And for myself, first season gives me hope because I do think they choose their words carefully. I will stare over here sadly at my Obi-Wan complete series Blu-ray, very specifically named The Complete Series, as if I expect my name on it. It said, this is the Obi-Wan Kenobi Complete Series, Joseph, Let It Go. Not paying Ewan again is the full title of that Blu-ray collection to me. Sometimes the language is a communication, I think. And I feel like first season, I don't think it means necessarily that they'll announce it here at D23, but I feel like first season and really spending some time, they could have just called this a look back at the wonderful storytelling that was the Acolyte. They could use language that's like, give it up, everybody.
Right.
First season does make a difference to me. Ken, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it does make a difference. I think it's rather intentional. It's a weird, soft confirmation if it does hold true. It could very much be someone putting this together and they just assume. And that's not I am not one of those people that makes the social media intern jokes because it's never some social media intern. It's actually a well-paid, trained, qualified professional running corporate sites and corporate Twitter feeds and everything there. So it could just be like, oh well, naturally, right? But at the same time, like you said, Joseph, they choose their words carefully. Unfortunately, for Kenobi fans, complete season it does kind of ring true. Excited. But I will say this: I don't necessarily think that this is the place where they announce it. I think sometimes we are so used to the convention pops, the big drops of news, and it doesn't always happen that way. That's why I'm not entirely expecting a animation series announcement. I hope I'm wrong, and it could be wrong, but. This I don't think at the end he goes, and here's everyone for season. I don't necessarily think that, especially if it's on like a main stage on the convention floor. That's a different vibe. But I don't know what their setup is. It's been a couple years. Since I've been to D23. But I definitely think put your money on hopeful for a second season.
Yep. All right. Any other final thoughts from you, Jennifer, on D23 or Skeleton Crew?
I want to know what they're going to be streaming, right? Because I think that they are going to stream some of the panels, right? I would love it if they streamed all of it, all the Star Wars stuff. They're not going to. I'm sure that's a lot of logistics, but I'll take what I can get, and I'll be watching after I take my finals.
Yeah. Oh, what a reward after your finals. I hope there's good news, good Star Wars news to reward you for going into the dark woods of your finals. You deserve some wonder at the end. Ken, any final thoughts?
No, I'm actually legitimately excited to see what comes out of this. I overlooked it this year. D23 is kind of a weird convention in a way because they spend more time on Disney Nature's Bears is the old joke I used to do, or the pin collecting for Disney adults. Like D23 is a Disney convention, but Lucasfilm being a key part of that, the movies being a key part of that. I'm more excited than I was a week ago, based on what we're discussing here today.
Yeah, me too. In general, just putting together this whole news list. I'm really excited for Skeleton Crew. I'm really excited for D23. It was just a really positive, some good Star Wars feeling. So I'm very happy about that. And I will simply cope with Kenobi being the complete series. That's fine. It's okay. I'll learn to let go. Anyway, Ken, you want to take us home?
Yeah, absolutely. We're Force Center. We can be found on social media at Force Center Pod. We're on Instagram, and our Facebook page is Force Center Podcast. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/Force Center Podcast is available anywhere. Just search, you'll find us. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. Help us reach our goals over there as well. And you can support us directly at patreon.com/Force Center. From there, get into that Discord. Jen Landa has arrived in the Discord. She's in there having some fun, yub-nubbing around. So there you go. You can follow me at Ken Napzok on my website, kennapzok.com for more. I am flying out to Little Rock today to do 6 shows with Mark Ellis out there at the Looney Bin in Little Rock. It's going to be just a nice, crisp 100 degrees. It's going to be a lot of fun. Join us out there. But when I come back, I am getting ready for Joseph Scrimshaw's birthday variety show event, 4 years old, on August 16th here live in LA or live on the internet, Joseph. It's going to be fun.
That is right. And the tickets are moving a little bit here for the internet. So thank you to everybody who is signing up for the live stream. It has been such a great part of my life these last several years to have Force Center be such a big part of it. And I would love for some Force Center people to be watching on the internet or live in person for any of our watchers, listeners who live here in Los Angeles. And I know you exist because every once in a while I see one of you at Target in the toy aisle. And I appreciate that very much. It must be a fun place for people to find somebody who talks about Star Wars on the internet, to just find them in the toy aisle looking at Star Wars action figures. So, hey, it would be great to join us at the show. That show is got tickets available at josephscrimshaw.com. So check that out. And you can follow me on all the social media at Joseph Scrimshaw for more info there. Did Jennifer plug? Did you plug your stuff?
No. You can find me on all the social media sites at Jennifer Landa, at Jennifer Landa 1138 on TikTok. And yeah, I'll come back to being online. Although I am having fun on the Discord. I love getting those notifications of new comments and things like that. So that's been a lot of fun.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. All right. Well, that is it. The news has broken.